they tear down.
This is one of the most iconic buildings in Los Angeles. It's the Young Apartments from 1911. This is taken off of the 10 freeway, right? This is the 10 freeway downtown. Everyone knows this building.
You tried it when you took it?
Yeah, of course I was. Kim took it. I was driving. We were on our way to Bukowski to study class at the United Lodge of Theosophy, and we picked up Carolyn, and I was running late, so I took the freeway because it's faster to get on the freeway and get from Alameda to Los Angeles Street on the freeway than it is Surface Street. So we were running late, so I didn't want to be late to Bukowski to study class. So I got on the freeway at Mateo and Olympic, and I just took it over to Los Angeles.
No one can hear you.
No one can hear me?
No.
Okay.
Not very well.
Okay, so this building, which is off of the 10 freeway, this is the Young Apartments. Robert B. Young and his son built this apartment house in 1911. It's at the intersection of Venice and Grand. The address is 1601 South Grand Avenue. I think it's an historic cultural monument. It is low-income housing now, and it is really well lit at night. It's really, the cornice is beautiful at night. And this is, this I think is the most iconic Robert B. Young building. And Nathan, where's Nathan? He'll be here in a second. Nathan and I are going to take everyone by the hand. Did everyone get a flyer just for exactly? It's a little darker in color. There's a flyer just for the walks. Everyone grab it. It's darker. It's orange. It's pumpkin orange. Exactly. Okay, I'm going to get started. Nathan will appear whenever he appears. Alright, my name is Richard. I give this walking tour series at the end of every LAVA Salon, except we didn't do it last month for very special reasons. Alright, this tour, this walking, Flâneur in the City is a walking tour series that Nathan and I started 3 years ago just to look at 19th century downtown Los Angeles. So understanding what places like the Temple Block, which don't exist anymore, which is now where City Hall is, understanding a bunch of buildings we're going to be talking about today, just trying to get your head around what 19th century Los Angeles looked like. This is the goal of this overarching tour series. This tour series that we're on is called Broadway on My Mind. We started it last July because the city of Los Angeles approved funding for Phase 1, Strategy 1 of the Broadway Streetscape Master Plan, which in my humble opinion is really retarded for a lot of reasons. It's really retarded, and I'm just, I'm not. But Broadway's really an amazing street. It's the most extant 19th century street in Los Angeles. It's really important. All of the, by the way, since we've had a walking tour, because we were off last month, Kim, do you want to give us an update on 733 South Broadway? The 1907 structure remodeled in 1924 with a giant gold leaf frame which has been remodeled.
Thank you. Until 4 or 5 months ago, it was marble with a golden frame, gold leaf, and shown in the sun. It was different at different times of day. It's run down and gross, but it was incredibly beautiful and fine as well. And then, a construction site went up over it, and then it was shrouded, and we said, oh, wonderful. Someone's bought that gorgeous building, and they're shining up the marble, and they'll clean the gold, and it's going to be exquisite. No, the hoardings came down, and they had plastered it. All the gold was gone, the marble was gone, what there was baby blue-colored plaster. And we contacted Historic Resources. It's not a listed building, it's not a contributing building to the Broadway National Register District, but it's important, and they did have to file a plan with the city about what they were planning to do. The city is now investigating because what they did was not what they said they were going to do, and somehow nobody noticed, even though for 4 or 5 months it was completely covered on this Broadway, which is supposedly on the city's radar as one of the streets that is being redeveloped. So it's really troubling. It's lost. We're never getting it back. All we can assume, for lack of other knowledge, is that the gold leaf was sold. I mean, bad enough to think about it being plastered, but I hope someone at least made some money and it's being melted down into little gimcracks and gewgaws. It's sad.
Thank you, Kim. So the point of this tour should now, walking tour series, should now be clear. We're here to look at Broadway because Broadway is gentrifying very quickly and we all care a lot about Broadway. And so it's important that we all keep looking at Broadway and keep everyone honest. On the screen is a picture of the architect Robert Brown Young. He is one of the most prominent 19th century and 20th century architects in Los Angeles. John Parkinson is a better known public architect because John Parkinson's 20th century structures are more extant. John Parkinson's 19th century structures are equally as demolished as Young's. But Young's the underdog, and Nathan and I love underdogs, so we champion Robert Brown Young. Nathan, I want you to tell us a little bit about this man. Give us a date of birth, a date of death, and just a little sense of this man coming to Los Angeles as a young architect at the beginning of the booms in the early 1880s.
All right. Robert Brown Young. We actually don't know when he was born. I don't think that's even in his obituary, and it's not in LAVA Sunday. But we do know that he comes from Huntington County, Canada. He arrives in Los Angeles. LAVA Sunday has him arriving in 1877. Randall has him arriving in 1883. I'm not convinced of either of those dates. That being said, 77 works for me because he's in contracting for a while.
Yeah.
He doesn't get his first major commission until the Clifton Hotel at Broadway and Temple. Until 83. It is in 83 that he gets, while he's doing that he gets this. You have to remember that when he arrives, I guess Kaiser and Morgan and Charles Davis are the only architects in town.
Nathan, where do people know Kaiser and Morgan from? What building did Kaiser and Morgan build?
For example, St. Viviana's.
And Pico.
And the Pico House. And, Pico House. Nike's Pico House.
Yeah.
Well, that's another story. And, so, I mean, at the time, the Los Angeles basically ran from the Plaza, down Main to about 4th. I mean, out, 2nd Street and Spring was the hinterlands. And he gets the Hollenbeck Commission for the Hollenbeck, actually for the Coulter's drugstore, and then the 2nd floor was a rooming house, against all warnings. But it turned out to do very well. Los Angeles starts building up through the 80s. There's a very famous boom via the railroads and all that stuff we won't even go into because this isn't that long of a talk, and it's mostly about Young and not about the history of the expansion district in the 80s. And so they decide in 89 to put on another couple of floors. Slide. Ta-da!
Tell us where this is.
Is that would be the southwest corner of Spring and 2nd?
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah.
So that was a brickyards, and also where the camels, that was the quartermaster corps for the camels in 1860, 61, for all of Los Angeles. That was the camel corps. Where, Lieutenant Beale and had his camels, and Hancock, and the whole story. Again, we won't go into it now. And huge success.
So this is the Hollenbeck.
This is the world famous Hollenbeck Hotel. And as we,
If you're going to contribute, get in the frame.
Okay.
Thank you.
as we begin to discuss, as we begin to blog about Young on the NSRO Land blog, we'll be talking a lot about the development of the sort of San Francisco style and how it came into Los Angeles, and Los Angeles and the way in which it was sort of struggling to find the vision for its own style, which I think sort of found its real expression in the Richardsonian Romanesque, but its struggle was against French Renaissance. That was the sort of prevailing style.
Second Empire.
The Empire, the Baker block, and the
Phillips block.
The Phillips block. Oh my God, that's a whole other story. which is all, of course, everything is gone, and now we look out by the Beaux-Arts. They paved Paradise and they put up a Beaux-Arts parking lot.
Next slide, please.
So, Young then gets the commission for the Westminster. This is O.T. Johnson's first commission for Young. Very important, O.T. Johnson has 9 major commissions. Also has commissions for Parkinson. Johnson, hugely important.
Next month.
Next month.
Next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, and by the way, my next LAVA presentation for the group will be this winter on Richardsonian Romanesque and its relationship to Los Angeles. Now, surprise, great.
Tell us where this is.
This
where
is-
this was.
The most amazing corner of Los Angeles. What is there? There was the Farmers and Merchants, the Van Nuys Hotel, the San Fernando building, and the Westminster, 4th and Main. And the Hollenbeck held on until 1931, and the papers had all sorts of snide comments about like, there's no way we could ever modernize this structure. And then the same was said in 1960 about the Westminster Hotel. It's just like, very colorful language about which you probably couldn't get away with today. It's like, and now all they care about is their bottles of wine, and no one cares about, they had these long talks about like, apparently this had an enormous giant marble staircase going up through, and the giant marble registry desk, but all anyone cared about was the wine. And so they tore it down and put up the parking lot until very recently. And Kim, didn't you go there and as they were tearing it up to put in those whatever they put in lofts or something, and she was finding all sorts of wonderful little blue and white tiles on the floor. And a drawer.
So, this was, there's a film called Street with No Name, 1951, and they filmed in the Hippodrome, which was the theater that this hotel encased. It was a boxing gym. Anyone been to the Magic Castle? Milt Larson built up the Magic Castle with a lot of material salvaged out of this hotel when they tore it down in '61.
Wow.
Yeah.
So a lot of y'all might know the Westminster, if any of you know. It's one of the great iconic structures.
Next slide.
A little less known is the Wilson Block. He gets this, Westminster was 87, he gets this in 89. This was at First and Spring. This was right across from the Hotel Nadeau, which was lost in 31 for the Times building. Right when the Hollenbeck was lost, heady times. And this remained for some time as like one story until now, I guess Parker Center is the new Parker Center, the one we dare not call Parker Center. The new Parker Center.
The police have, okay, let me interject again. Okay, so just as a mental exercise, go stand kitty corner from the Los Angeles Times building. Okay? Get down to First and Spring, go stand on the property of the new police headquarters and look at the Los Angeles Times, the 4th Los Angeles Times building, 1935 Gordon Kaufman. Your back would be to where this was. If you look to your right, if you look up the hill, the little hill that City Hall sits on, that entire area in 1926 was completely transformed. A huge labyrinth of small streets and a labyrinth of 19th century structures. They were all demolished about 1926 to make way for City Hall. The Temple Block, the Phillips Block. So this is a good corner to go stand on and look at the Los Angeles Times and try and understand before Harry Chandler built the 4th Los Angeles Times building, while the 3rd building was still standing, what this intersection looked like.
So you can definitely see a certain style to Wilson, the corner tower, the big windows. Let's move on to the next slide. And this is sort of what, for lack of a better term, there are better terms, the San Francisco style, because I should mention, from Huntington County, Canada, he spends a year in '77 in Denver, and he looks around Denver and he goes, Denver. He goes to San Francisco, either in the late '70s or early '80s. He spends just 2 months in San Francisco, because of course, come on, San Francisco. But Los Angeles, yeah. So by '93, this is the Slauson block. He's starting to work in that sort of heavy rusticated stone Romanesque vernacular, which he doesn't do a lot of, but the ones that he does are very good.
This is Broadway and 3rd.
This is Broadway, yeah. But we got a whole bunch of Broadway to talk about. Should we talk about that at the end on the little orange sheet? Yeah, no, this is like 419 to 421 South Broadway. So if you know the big Broadway department store that runs from Hill along 4th to Broadway, the big white 1913, is that part of the city in Bergstrom?
Yeah.
Yeah, this is
the corner of the of Broadway as it stretches along Broadway to the corner of the Fourth.
So that's the 1893 Slauson block.
So it's gone.
It's totally gone.
It's gonna take out by Broadway.
Bottom of a landfill. And next door to it, so what we see, the Slauson block on our very far right, also from the period, Wilson block, also known as the Broadway Hotel, 425 to 435 South Broadway, which we're gonna have to go digging around in those buildings. What you have now is there's a two-story flat facade and then a oddly more Beaux-Arts facade here.
Kind of, but
I'm not totally convinced that it's the same, but I think it's built on the same sort of, much in the way that 731 South Broadway is the old hotel at Delmo, but it's been covered over. And of course, you can't go to Zemus to check the assessor's records because they're just wrong a lot of the time, I found. As
we'll get into this in later tours. We'll get into all of this. What's this? This is gone.
This is where I go to see all my girlies shake it. That's the Burlesque Theater on Main Street, also known as the Burbank Theater, also known as the New Follies, the Burbank Theater, 1893. Again, working in a stripped-down version of the Romanesque. At the time, I mean, come on, with this, that made 4 theaters in Los Angeles. And the interior shots of this are absolutely amazing. One of the best theaters ever built in LA. I think at the time there was just the Grand Opera House, which I think was the Child's. There was the Park Theater, which became Hazard's Pavilion. And there was the Los Angeles Theater on screen, which that was the Lyceum.
Yeah, the Lyceum.
So this is absolutely magnificent. And the Mason Building, also Broadway, that's 1 year later, I think, 95.
Yeah, let me interrupt you.
So this is just a general overview. Our tour today, we're just going to walk the block and talk about the Carr Building and the Barker Brothers Building. And the next month and the coming months, we'll walk up to 3rd and 4th and get through these buildings we're looking at. We just want to give you a very general overview. This structure is gone. I think part of it could still be extant, the 1 story. But Shomoff's just bought this corner. This is the southeast corner of 4th and Broadway. It's 1 story. It's like half the block, and it's shuttered. It's got this really crummy, grading, industrial scaffolding. The Shomoffs are going to build like a 50-story mixed-use unit on it. And this is the Mason block. This is where the Mason block was. And so that's very sad.
Yeah, and
Okay.
yeah, and so and for '94, the Mason block was extremely stripped down. That's an extremely clean, pure building. Young was thinking in a totally futuristic vernacular at the time. And what kills me about this Chernoff building is, like, in every shot from Bunker Hill, you would always see the Braley, the apartments building, and the Braley could always see Bunker Hill, and now you won't be able to anymore because the Braley, which was just the other side of the Angelus there, the Angelus is gone. Now they're going to put up a 35-story tower that's, I don't know, come on, languishing.
Let me set this up. Okay, as soon as we walk out of this building, we're going to be on 7th Street. And you're going to see a giant parking lot with a Carl's Jr. in it.
Where I'm actually parked at. I'm satisfied.
Okay, so when we walk out and you see the giant parking lot at 7th and Broadway with the Carl's Jr., take it away.
Oh, Nathan, when did they tear this building down? 1935? No.
Basically like yesterday. No, it was
1995.
Yeah, well, they actually took down the top 7 stories in the mid-'80s.
Yeah.
Because they've been unoccupied since Silmar in '71, and then finally, like in '95, they were like, yeah, no, the 3-story thing isn't working for us. It's just gotta go. Yeah, LA didn't have a really great first-class hotel to rival like a San Francisco hotel like the St. Francis. So they said, so Lancashire said, God bless them. ooh, 1%, what did they ever do for us? Except build really awesome things that a collectivist society tore down. Okay. Sorry. I just like to go with kid.
Go do some more, I like it.
Go. 200 rooms with like 250 servants. What do you call them? People who work in the place. And like every room has a bathroom. The bathrooms have bathrooms. I mean, the place was absolutely amazing.
What year is this?
I think it broke ground in 02 and it opened in 05. I mean, it took forever to build. It's just stunning. It really puts LA in first class. And of course, they go to Young to build it because it's amazing. Yeah.
This is the hospital.
This is the car building.
Your building.
Now, this is one I found out was a R.B. Young that I hadn't known before. And I'm very, very happy to find out. Does anybody recognize it? You should. You probably walked past it on the way, or it looks exactly like that today. Almost.
Three buildings
Except for the
down.
bottom. Because
You walk out the door and you go 3 buildings down.
yeah, because it was covered for the longest time with a big metal grate. Now, bringing back Broadway, they have it as being erected in 1935, which doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's because it had a makeover, a little bit of a makeover in 1935. The assessor's office says it was built in 1916. Where they got that, I don't know. But J.E. Carr, the California Furniture Company, said, I need a furniture company building. It's going to be awesome. And they built that. And the Carr family finally sells it to, they didn't actually sell it to 2006 to Clifton's family.
The Clinton family bought the
That's
building in 2000.
Clifton's. Yeah. Clifton's is an R.B. Young. Huge deal. Huge deal. Lines around the block. So,
Thank you, Nathan.
I don't know if, I mean, so,
Okay, so this is
call the
Clifton.
papers.
This is Clifton's cafeteria.
That's Clifton's cafeteria. Now, and it had the, the ornament redo and stuff like that. I wanted to point out there's still some really good extant Young. He starts with a sort of small hotel vernacular. I'm not even going into the fact that he did like tons of residences, but besides all of his amazing residences, he does stuff like this. This is the lead. This is about 512, 514 South Main. There's also ones like there's an SRO called the Linden on East 7th Street. And these things still exist all over the place. It's just a wonderful vintage shop. It looks still very much like that today.
Oh, let me just a word on this. Young is amazing. There are no more SROs left in downtown Los Angeles. Oh, the Yorkshire Hotel. Single room occupancies. But all the old single room occupancies in Skid Row proper have been purchased with the help of the CRA by nonprofits that are run as halfway houses, and the Leonid is one of them. So this is on Main, just below 5th. And it's been altered, not significantly, but there's been a lot of surface alteration. But the Leonid is still there. And a lot of these SROs in Skid Row are still there, and they're Young's representative. I think it's really interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, so he does a ton of these sort of small, we're not even touching on his residences, his commercial, his industrial structures. At one point he had 87 structures at once. He was famous for riding a burro. He couldn't get around to all the structures being erected at once, so he rode a California burro. He was famous for having to cut its lunch short because the mule would want to take this long lunch, and he would say, "No, come on, we gotta go down and check out the Lancashire building." This is the Lancashire block, and you really have to understand this in the context of what it was next to. It was across the street from the Stimson block, which was really high, over the top, 1893 Richardsonian Romanesque. So his doing this was really like, oh, I'm from the future. So they do this in 97, and then in 1902, they decide to add 2 more stories. So they take off that characteristic corner tower, and they make it into a high-rise, which,
Let's be honest, it looks terrible.
it's not its most effective work, but
This survives to about 1956, 57.
I think that's right, yeah, it's about 56, 57. And I don't remember what's there now. It's like the
Empty parking lot. Yay!
parking lot.
Oh, wait, what's this, Nathan? Wait,
Look, it says right in the corner, Langsburg Architect, in tiny little letters.
isn't this the building next door to us?
That's the building next door to us. go puke on the wall, and they'll knock back and say, "You kids, be quiet."
Built in 1780, I had no idea.
That's right, 1780. Yes, it's built by pirates. And I don't even know what that means.
That's the postcard number if you want to work.
Everybody and their brother thinks that this is a Landsberg. I think it is. In the Bringing Back Broadway stuff, it says it's a Landsberg. In the city stuff, in the National Register stuff.
Jessica Webbington completely says it.
In the 70s, everybody says it's a Landsberg. Well, they're effing wrong. Because what happened was, they go to R.B. Young, they say, R.B. Young, design us the most amazing theater in the world. He says, yeah, I can do that. He's already designed like the novelty theater. He's done a couple other theaters. But this one is going to be bigger, badder, and have more money thrown in it than the Burbank even. And so he does, and
What Young's conception of it is it's basically this. So
it's all there, the fenestration, the massing, it's all basically
Young. What Young had done is the base across. His main thing was he thought it'd be really interesting if you had stores in the middle and 2 entrances on the sides. Kind of wacky. Otherwise, it's basically this.
And that's in like mid-1909. By about the beginning of 1910, they bring in Landsberg to muck around with it a bit. Young is still on as the contractor for it. So Young actually, all Landsberg did is he adds these little side lights. This guy and that guy, which means compressing these bays just a little bit, which were wider. I think in Young's conception of it, in the Young's renderings, these are rounded a little bit. But otherwise, it's the same. Landsberg gives it a little more of a defined cornice. And then, of course, he gives it the traditional enter in the front, enter in the center, stores along the sides. But otherwise, I think it's exactly the same. It's the whole thing. So, next time someone tells you that's a Landsberg, you can kindly remind them that I believe a contemporary quote runs, above is presented a perspective prepared under the auspices of G.L. Landsberg, the circuit architect embodying the revisions to the plans drawn by R.B. Young and Sons. We haven't even talked about Frank Young yet. And the latter firm will supervise the erection of the building, blah, blah, blah. Domingo Mora does the polychrome terracotta, which we're going to talk about when we get out there. Yeah, boy. So yeah, we got
we're looking at it soon. Okay.
Oh yeah, I just threw this in here because this is like probably the best known of all the extant Young structures, because everybody drives by it on their way to the freeway. Everyone was like, wow, what a cool building, wonder what it is. That's the Young Apartments. I think it's basically their last Young and Sons. Robert Brown Young has some issues. He gets his nose broken by T.H. Reynolds, who's the contractor for the Lancashire, I think, and then he falls off a streetcar, and so he has some problems there, and so his son comes in, and his son, he can't really run the business as well, and he dies in Robert Brown Young, not the son, he dies in 1914 at his home, 1001 South Hoover. And so this is, 1911, so this is about 3 years before he finally shuffles off. And there you are. That is the history of Robert Brown Young in a very, very small.
Where did that one?
Venice. Brandon, Venice. And then it's right on that sort of northwest corner.
Okay, so I think we're ready to take to the streets.
Is there a hashtag?
What?
Is there a hashtag?
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna get to that. Okay, that's just like letting everyone know that we're almost done. Okay. Thank you, Nathan. That was very good. So we're gonna walk out the. Give me that for a second. In your flyer, there are 48 buildings listed by Robert Brown Young. Most of them on Broadway are still up. We'll look at them in later tours. A lot of them are. All right, so we're gonna go look at the Carr building. We're going to go look at the old Barker Brothers building, which is now an arcade. And we'll go to Barker Brothers first. But we picked 2 buildings today. We're going to go down to Barker Brothers, and then we're going to walk back up. And we'll talk about the Orpheum as soon as we leave the building.
Yeah.
So, hashtag, if you're doing social media on this tour, hashtag.
I thought you said hat check.
hashtag. The hashtag for this tour is Broadway on my mind. Okay? And Nathan, why don't you start? I need a couple minutes to break down my gear. Why don't you now, with everyone, go downstairs and start talking about the Orpheum and the possible source of the glazed terracotta, which is probably LA pressed brick. And I'll see you guys downstairs in a couple minutes. I'm just gonna get my stuff together.
All right, well.
Okay, so follow Nathan, and I'll see everyone downstairs in a couple minutes.
So I was really.
Yeah, pretty much.
I was just hearing about how they had the two.
Yeah, so the smoke shop that's now. Smoke shop, if you look at that postcard you projected up, there's a guy standing there with a sandwich board. That was actually the entrance that took you up to the second balcony where the cheap seats were the singers.
Yeah, which were just planks.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, no, there was actually seats up there, and then there were the pews, the benches, wood benches.
yeah.
The benches are all still there, but the seats have been taken out when they put air conditioning. And so that was fairly recent, but all the wooden pews are still there. They've been up there recently.
So the pews were certainly less.
Oh yeah, that was the peanut gallery for sure. Yeah, but they're all still there.
And that was the entrance.
Fabulous.
And then was there an entrance?
Yeah, and so there's an entrance on the office building. Office building side, there's another grand entrance with a steel door and a nice big padlock that I can't get through.
Oh, here we go.
But then we can go up that way. So that side, the only reason they don't let people up to that is they never put one. They have the handrail, but the handrail falls off. It's very loose, people leaning on it too much, or not being taken care of. So that leads up and right up to that level. It's great. It's a really good entrance. It has its own lobby up there and its own bathrooms. Yeah, it's fabulous. Yeah, it's fabulous in terms that it's still there, but it's.
You should go stand with it behind you and then talk to the group.
Oh, okay. Well, you want to deliver
Well,
an address on that?
if I had known, I would have worked a little bit more on what else to say about it. I don't know. I didn't know anything about it.
Well, I didn't know about it until.
But
Oh, here we are at the fabulous Orpheum Theater, which. Wait for Kim.
that's a little tiny.
Part she wanted it out.
Okay. Let's get hit by that.
Oh,
that would be
That'll work, yeah.
I know. How many years has that been now?
So yeah, so the Orpheum is going up, and I guess the young drawings. I don't know my notes with me now, but the young rendering is like 1909. Again, with just the bays all the way across, without the two little side lights. All the polychrome. Come on, folks. All the polychrome terracotta is by Domingo Mora. We're not totally certain who the actual company was that produced it. Again, we're thinking LA pressed brick. That's sort of a matter of going into some of the archives, but we're going to get the famous Brian Kaiser tile genius to the stars. Those stars being us. And of course the palace here, neon marquee. I don't know, when exactly did it become the palace? It was fairly early in its
like
incarnation.
19. Like circa 1919.
Yeah, around 1919, so it was still. And I think this was the fourth of the Orpheum Circuit theaters. Third.
The fourth goes down.
Oh, that was the fourth. The fourth was the Orpheum. And again, yeah, the very heavy cornice on top. That was Landsberg. The sidelights were Landsberg. And otherwise, it's all Robert Brown Young.
Yeah. And it says Orpheum, above where it says Palace, it does say Orpheum. Like they've uncovered it above the marquee. They chipped away the concrete they put over it. They actually does say it again up above there.
Oh, above the little
heads and stuff. And they haven't climbed up there to chip it away. Wow. Yeah, it's too bad. Yeah, the terracotta tile.
So who's inside now, as far as it being a?
The Villa Johnny. The Villa Johnny.
So there's sort of.
It's their baby.
But I mean, as far as tenants go, I know that they've applied, I guess, for for all of their theaters to be sort of one giant bar, basically, bar and restaurant. And Broadway Theater Entertainment District. So God bless them. Hopefully they will.
Yeah, we're gonna try to do. I made an art exhibit was up on the penthouse floor recently. They do things.
And I know Richard's going to want to. We're going to talk about the car building, but Richard wanted to talk about the Barker Brothers first, and he is still with me.
He'll be here.
How did it work when those two doors went to stores? Like, you go in there, and how would a store fit in there with the theater there too?
Well, okay, so where it says smoke shop, it was actually an entrance. It wasn't a store. It actually had an entrance that looked very much like where it says Orpheum Building. And so where it says Orpheum Building, that takes you into a little lobby with an elevator, an old hand-operated elevator still. And it takes you to all the floors. And if you go past that, it takes you into what kind of appears like an alley. That alley takes you into the lobby area. It can also take you to another staircase past that takes you up to the upper balcony areas. Then it also takes you to a fire escape, which runs alongside of the building, which has fire escapes for all the levels. Takes you up to all the places. And where the smoke shop was, it was a private fire escape that took you just directly to that second balcony level. That's all it was for.
How was this theater oriented? Where's the street?
Straight back.
Straight back.
Yeah, so this is the main lobby. There was a ticket booth that was alongside the wall and in the corner by the doors. The later years, when it's when it's used more and things, they put a ticket booth right in the middle up by the front, so it's easier to manage the lines. They ripped that out fairly recently.
So the balcony is.
And the balcony is, it's right up, basically behind the beautiful figures. That's a second floor space for storage, and actually had at one time a dance studio. It's had a salon. I see old photographs with advertisement in the windows for a beauty salon and stuff, which you reach from the staircase in the main lobby, and you go up there because the elevators go right to it. And it has a fire door that you can also access then the two different balconies from it's
Well,
wonderful.
since we're vamping, does anyone want to hear a ghost story?
Let's hear a ghost story.
All right, here, you film me.
Okay.
All right, so in 2001, when Gilmore had this building, they were trying to bring artists in. That was when they were trying to bring galleries in chiefly, and so it was easy to rent the space for a 2-day rock and roll festival, which I put on called the Scramarama, 10th anniversary celebration of my zine Scram. And I basically just spent a fortune bringing in all the artists I really love. Scott Miller from Game Theory played here, The Music Machine, Reunited, Music Machine 2000, Deniz from Radio Birdman, Brute Force, just really, really fantastic artists. Michael Lucas from the Phantom Surfers was the master of ceremonies. I'm forgetting people, but it was really, really cool. And Deniz flew in from, I think, Australia, and he was really tired, so he went under the stage to rest for a while. He being a fighter pilot and a trauma surgeon and a rock star, he's really good at taking these disco naps. So there was a couch under the stage, and that's where they had all of the letters for the marquee. They were all just stacked up in different sizes, and if you needed letters, you go down there. Otherwise,
The orchestra pit.
the orchestra pit.
Yeah.
But beyond that, I mean, there's just sort of a little.
The area where the orchestra would have rested.
They would have rested, and then there's dressing rooms. It's enormous down there.
Yeah.
But there was a big comfy couch, and he's lying down there, and he becomes very agitated and irritated because of the noises. And at first he assumes there's rats, because there's a room just beyond where he's lying, and it has a big sliding sort of fire door, and he hears a lot of rattling and trouble in that room, and it's very annoying. And he looks inside, he opens the door up, there doesn't seem to be anything in there. It's filled with paint cans, and he realizes that's what he's hearing. The paint cans are rattling. Now every time he looks in there, there's nothing going on. He does this repeatedly. He can't sleep, and finally, whatever it is annoyed that he hasn't recognized that it's actually a ghost. So he hears something very different from the rattling. What he hears is the unmistakable sound of a human, perhaps on a stepladder, a little higher than normal, unzipping its trousers and urinating onto the floor. He hears the zipping, and he hears the whizzing, and he hears it land, and there's nothing there. Ghosts of the Palace.
Oh my God.
Number 1 in a series. On that same visit, Brute Force, who came out from New York, saw a ghostly child down in the men's bathroom. He asked about the kids that were there. The kids were there the other night, not the night he was there, and other things of that sort. The other ghosts I've heard about but never experienced myself is apparently if you suck on that stage, rotten eggs will be thrown at you by backstage performers who are dead, but they have ghostly eggs that are rotten. So don't suck.
Yeah, really.
That's what I got.
Everyone's a critic.
Yeah, everyone's
They stink. They
Smell like
stink.
sulfur.
They smell like sulfur.
Ghost eggs.
Yeah.
Ghost eggs. Stinky dead ghost eggs. I don't know where Richard is.
Richard's across the street.
Oh, he is fantastic. Then we're getting
Because I saw him going down that way, and then I realized,
Well,
We'll be wearing a hat.
it is very enormous underneath the stage. Yeah. It still has the remnants. It has the remnants of where an animal cage was. Because you can tell it's very big, and it slopes down the middle where a drain was. It used to have a gate that would close down, so you could have all kinds of animals. And there was a huge vaudeville theater. So you would have kinds of
empty except for the first floor, basically. Or?
yeah. Basically, the upper area is completely empty, and it's just the theater and then the retail spaces that's being used.
and
Which is, you could say that about a lot of
A lot of
Broadway.
these things.
the history of its vaudeville is unbelievable.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
Sarah Bernhardt,
Yeah.
the Marx Brothers, Al Jolson. I mean, anybody who was anybody was on that stage.
On that stage.
Dennis Tech. And here, let's let these nice people go by. And you'll note that the 4 figures represent, I believe, drama and song and music and dance.
Yep.
Gorgeous structure.
And they're gorgeous.
So Nathan, what you're telling us, because this is the original Orpheum.
Yeah.
The next building to
Well, I
the
think
south.
this was the third Orpheum.
Third Orpheum. The building to the south is the Forrester building. You can see in the upper
Right.
coursework.
Yeah, 638.
And the building to the south of that is
the second JE
second
car building.
car building.
The first building, which is now Clifton's, they were in, and then they were like, you know what? We're just doing too well. We need much more space. We need something with more stories, something a little grander, with more Beaux-Arts detailing. Let's build a new building.
So the Palace, the Forrester, car building number 2,
And
the
car
building
building
to the
number
south of that is Clifton's, and that is car building number 1.
Right.
Car building number 1.
1904.
Car building number 1, 1904. Car building number 2,
1909. I think it
They're
opens in
both
1910.
designed by Robert Brown Young.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's very
And as
interesting.
is the Orpheum.
As is the
The
Orpheum.
Forrester in between with the big Bond neon upon is
That's
Whittlesey.
Whittlesey.
Yeah.
Whittlesey was a San Francisco architect who was very interested in reinforced concrete construction post-quake. Post-quake. He was a San Francisco architect who, with Parkinson, they were very prominent in the Southern California chapter. He was prominent in Northern California, but he was one of the big proponents of steel reinforced concrete construction, earthquake-proof fireproof.
What is the Desmonds?
On this map? The Desmonds is A.C. Martin, and that's 1923. The Payless shoe store, that's A.C. Martin, 1923. And the Carl's Jr., remember we showed you the Lancashire Hotel? Yeah.
This would be almost a perfect block. Almost a perfect block. We're not for, and the best building on the block was the Haas building,
Which now
which got that
ugly
makeover in like 1974, which is just an enormously beautiful Beaux-Arts building that got the 1974 makeover, which not humanity's finest moment. And Richard is correct. The Carl's Jr. That was the site of that tripartite Lancashire building that opened in
That
1905.
was there through the late 80s as an extant structure and through 95 as a three-story structure.
Yeah.
Just because we're here, let's finish the block. Let's finish the east side of the block. So the Payless Shoes is Desmond's. That's A.C. Martin, 1923. The next building, the last building on the block, is the Story Building, 1912. Morgan and Walls are the architect. Morgan and Walls being the oldest architecture firm in Los Angeles. And Mr. Story built a penthouse for himself at the top of that building, quite famously. So Mr. Oviatt's penthouse was really one of many. later, very late, 10,000. And I think that's, so we did this block. All right, why don't we, go, yeah.
And the next time you watch The Big Lebowski, as you all should, that's where Maud lives, because you'll notice that you look out the window and you see the Los Angeles theater neon. That's Maud Lebowski's art pad where she flies, throws paint, and has nihilists over it. Okay, that's my plug.
Let's walk to Ross. Okay. Look at this big hole.
Yeah, it's a big one.
Oh, look, Broadway's beautification, Broadway master streetscape plan.
Yeah.
What's that? A park foot?
I don't know. I don't know what it is.
It's a
I don't know what it is.
And it's put on plastic. It's basically just to reinforce the fact that it's not a street anymore. People kept driving over there anyway.
I know.
And so they put these little cone kind of things and like the kitty litter.
What are they going to do with it?
It's
like a parklet?
Yeah, it's temporary right now, just the thinning of the street, just to supposedly just to see what it's going to be like. And I didn't know they were going to do this thing.
So really, it's just to see what the road diet is going to be like. Yeah.
Yeah, just to see.
Interesting. Okay, Ricardo.
Ricardo, question.
What? The Forrester building was built for Forrester, who put what in it? What was the Forrester?
Oh, yes, good question. Okay, so, yes. Thinking. Okay, yes, right. So, just to get businesses in these buildings down up through World War II. Okay, so, the Haas building, the ugly building on the corner we won't talk about. That was a bank and offices. Clifton's cafeteria, that was car building number 1, Robert Brown Young. That was built, the cafeteria was built for the Bose brothers. And the Bose brothers opened that cafeteria in the early teens, and they wanted out on their lease in the early 1930s. So Mr. Carr approached Clifford Clinton, who'd already opened the Pacific South Seas on Olive Street in 1930-31. That was very successful, and he opened up the Penny cafeteria with special permission from the health department across from Angel's Flight. Mr. Carr was so impressed with Mr. Clinton that he called him into his office and said, I've got this cafeteria, the structure it's a cafeteria. They want out on their lease. Would you like to open up another cafeteria? I'll make you a really good deal. And Clifford Clinton said yes. And in 1935, they opened up Clifton's Brookdale. And it took him about 4 months to invent Brookdale. They had about 6 months window when Bose Brothers closed, and they moved in. The car building number 2, the taller of the 2 buildings that we're right in front of, that's the J.E. Carr building. California Furniture Company was there, and they were there through the 50s. So that was always a furniture store. The Forrester building, had a clothing store, but Harris and Frank Clothing. It was a very early 19th century clothing store, and they had their store there, and they were there through the 30s. And by the beginning of World War II, they moved on. I'm forgetting. They became a big name. I'm forgetting the name that Harris and Frank became. It'll come to me later. They became like a department store chain. It'll come to me. Anyway, other clothing stores moved in, and the ground floor up through the 60s was men's clothing stores. So they were up. And then Bond Clothing came in the 50s. Bond, that blade sign is pretty late. Is that okay? Is that a good answer? Okay. All right, let's keep moving.
When it would be like clothing stores.
Yeah, I know.
Would it always, is it just the bottom, or did people take elevators up?
They had offices on the upper floors.
Okay.
So they had a lot of storage too. So when Mr. Carr built the California Furniture Company, they used a lot of the floors for storage, because looking at some of the permits, which I got right, the address is right. they request changes in use. So they want to go from just warehouse to we want to open up an office, or you just get changes in permitting for how you use the spaces, and it's obvious that a lot of the upper floors were just used for storage.
So was one clothing store when that video facade?
So that was earlier, and then that facade and this facade, they went up in the it's 62, okay. But I didn't have time to pull the permits on the grill, but yeah, that would be.
Yeah, that thing with the peacocks looks super cool on the bond.
Yeah, it's a beautiful sign.
Yeah, the sign's cool.
Beautiful sign.
Let's see on this side.
Well, let's stay on this side. We've got a pedestrian crosswalk there, and we'll just take the pedestrian crosswalk. So let's stay on this side and we'll walk to the Barker Brothers. Kim, I'd like to see the phone if I could for a second. Thank you so much. I really love you, Kim. Yeah. Lankershire Hotel. Lankershire Hotel. There. I've seen photos at the Natural History Museum. All 7 stories.
How do you think about that Carl's Jr. there?
Greatest ghost hotel. I walk through the Carl's Jr. I hear the servants clinking the silverware against the porcelain china of the Lancashire Hotel. I hear Mr. Lancashire himself eating his pressed duck, drinking of the finest burgundies, and murder. I don't know, I just added murder.
Thank you. It's always good to add a little murder.
I did murder. Also, I parked my car in there.
I thought you didn't believe in ghosts.
I just said we don't give ghost tours because I can't guarantee you'll see one. I'm the last person not to believe in ghosts.
I thought that when you heard that cat or something, and you were looking on a tour.
It's the Villa Aurora.
Yeah. The neon, the lion.
Buck fine. Oh, you thought that was like an unusual occurrence?
Well, I thought it was, but sometimes
because I will tell that in a pet story or a return story because I know these guys. And, you know, I was there that night and I talked to them right after it happened. And I'm comfortable being a secretary for that. Because people make lots of stuff. I know they do. I like those stories.
Pool and the Bukowski.
It's all a nice glazed brick. They need to
house we go to.
Talk
about what?
In general.
About the haunted pool and the Bukowski.
That place is fucking haunted. Yeah, I don't talk about that. Okay, directly in back of me, the yellow glazed brick, which I think must have come from LA Press Brick, which is where Men's Central Jail is now. So this is the original showroom for Barker Brothers, right, Carolyn? Barker Brothers, 1904, Robert Brown Young. So this is still, my work on Barker Brothers has really only started. That's why we give these tours. So Barker Brothers is really interesting. Obadiah Barker founds Barker Brothers in like 1892. Furniture company, very forward-thinking, very successful. Obadiah Johnson dies in 1912. Sons take over. They're hugely successful. This is their first showroom. In 1926, Barker Brothers, working with Claude Beelman and Alex Kurtlet, open up their new showroom at 7th and Flower. I'm going to talk about both these buildings, and I will identify them as I talk about them, but most of what I found focuses on that, and it's interesting, so we'll put that at the end. You want the foot? Yes, you want the foot. Very good. Okay. So what's interesting is that and I haven't figured this out, and I may never figure it out, but Barker Brothers took over an annex, probably where this parking lot is. They had an art gallery and a lecture hall. and they would do lectures several times a week. Very home economic focus on some of them, cooking, but they also had an art gallery and they gave lectures on art. They would have curators and critics come in and talk about, they had a Titian on display in 1915. They had a world famous Titian. So Barker, this was very much not just a furniture store, but they had salons. It's very, very interesting. And I think
Stealing your act.
a building, hardly. The building was where this parking lot is now.
Where's your Titian?
I don't have a Titian. I don't have a Titian. This building has been through several iterations. In the late 1950s, Marinello Beauty School came in and was a big feature. In the early teens, a cafeteria moved into the basement. Of course, there are cafeteria. The history of Broadway is written in cafeterias which opened in the early teens, between 1910 and 1914 on Broadway. So a cafeteria moved in. In the 1980s, that white facade on the first floor that's just painted white, that they took out a permit to open up a burger joint called Julio's Burgers. The arcade. The best I can, Charles Bukowski claims the arcade was there in the 1940s. I don't have evidence of that, but the arcade was there by the 1970s. And I'll get my Charles Bukowski poem out in a second and read it. But Charles Bukowski has a very famous poem about going to Clifton's cafeteria and walking past this arcade. What's interesting about Barker Brothers, and we're going to stop talking about Barker. So by 1926, Barker Brothers had 5 showrooms. They were an incredibly successful company, and this was the grandfather of the store. I mean, it's a very backward store for them. By 26, obviously 5 or 6 years earlier, they decided that they were going to move into the new part of the financial district of downtown. They hired Kirtland and Bieleman, very popular architects at the time. When they open, they have a store, they have a boutique in their Flower Street store that opens in 26 called Modes and Manners. And it's not Barker Brothers. It's their former designer, Clem Weber. Their former designer, Clem Weber, quits in 1925. He goes to Paris to the Expo that starts the Art Moderne, the Art Deco. Like James Oviatt goes this same exhibition and builds the Oviatt building. Clem Weber goes to this exhibition, comes back and quits his job and starts his own design studio. He's so excited by Art Deco. So in 1926, his studio is still very new. They give him, as their former head designer, space in the Flower Street Barker Brothers. It's called Modes and Manners, and it's the first place you can buy Art Deco furniture in Los Angeles. He goes on to become the head designer at Disney. So this is pretty interesting. I've just really only started to figure this stuff out, but this is like Barker. Barker Brothers is a very traditional store, and I just find it very interesting that they were the ones that you could get Art Deco furniture at. They were the first place. So, Kim, let me move. I need to be where you are. We both can't be in that place. I want to pull my poem out by Charles Bukowski about this arcade, and I'll read it. And Nathan, you need some water.
You can actually see that they're working on the globe marquee right now.
Oh, yeah,
and reinstalling the neon.
All that neon along that front part. I mean, I remember when I took the photo of that for my book just like 10 years ago, all that neon was there. And then it was removed like 8 years ago.
Right.
So is that
They're redoing
is that the neon that they removed and then put in the basement, or is that all rebed?
I don't know.
They're gonna redo it. There's no point.
Yeah, because look, they're up there on the.
I know they're putting it in right now. They may have taken down, they may have gotten the old and museum, but more likely, no. It's Eric Toll. I wouldn't be surprised if he was here today helping them. He's getting down and dirty with his own $5 million that he's putting into it.
Are they gonna make the globe spin?
Yeah. The relighting of it.
They've already fixed that part.
The globe is spinning already?
The relighting of the globe marquee will be June 24th. The public relighting.
It's June 24th? Oh, I'm so bad.
7:30.
Fantastic. Okay. Thank you. I forgot to take this out when I packed my bag.
Wait,
all right, so this is a poem. Glass of water in there. In I'll get it, Kim. Don't worry. I'll get it. In 1987, Charles Bukowski leaves Hollywood and he moves to San Pedro. His wife Linda moves with him, and about once a week, almost every Sunday, they would drive up from San Pedro, they would park at the Examiner building at 11th and Broadway, and they would walk up to Clifton's because he loved Broadway. So he wrote a poem about going to Clifton's and passing this arcade. And this poem is written about 1989, 1990, so about 2 years into his ritual. It's called Downtown. Nobody goes downtown anymore. The plants and the trees have been cut away around Pershing Square. The grass is brown and the street preachers are not as good as they used to be. And down on Broadway, the Latinos stand in long, colorful lines waiting to see Latino action movies. I walk down to Clifton's cafeteria. It's still there. The waterfall is still there. The few white faces are old and poor, dignified, dressed in 1950s clothing, sitting at small tables on the first floor. I take my food upstairs to the third floor. All Latinos at the tables there, faces more tired than hostile, the men at rest from their factory jobs, their once beautiful wives now heavy and satisfied. The men wanting badly to go out and raise hell, but now the money is needed for clothing, tires, toys, TV sets, children's shoes, and the rent. I finish eating, walk down to the first floor and out, and nearby is a penny arcade. I remember it from the 1940s. I walk in. It's full of young Latinos and blacks between the ages of 6 and 15. They shoot machine guns, play mechanical soccer, and the piped-in salsa music is very loud. They fly spacecraft, test their strength, fight in the ring, have horse races, auto races, but none of them want their fortunes told. I lean against a wall and watch them. I go outside again. I walk down and across from the Herald Examiner building where my car is parked. I get in, then I drive away. It's Sunday, and it's true what they say. The old gang never goes downtown anymore. It's a great poem. So, thank you.
Very fitting.
It's a great poem. I'd like to go across the street, and thank you. I'd like to go across the street and go inside the arcade. There's still a lot of details that betray its 1904 construction. Yeah, there's still a lot of details. So let's go. The pedestrian crosswalk is right here. It's just gonna take me a second to tie down my gear. So let's go in the arcade and take a peek around. It's right here. People work from this.
Interlude, what are you doing?
Looking for pants.
They're
We're looking for pants and family pants.
That's it.
We're family pants
Okay.
looking for pants.
Are you looking for pants too?
Looking for, well, he's top priority in his pants, and that's all they got for 44s. He's a 44, that's all we got. Can I give away your secret? I'm sorry if I give away your secret.
That's okay, I'm a 44. I'm looking for some powder blue, slightly stretchy denim pants.
I think
Yeah,
you
like
need
this-
some
this color.
ladies'
Some ladies' pants?
You might need some ladies'
Whatever.
pants.
You know,
Okay, fine.
let me tell you a
Let's
secret
go
about the
look at the
ladies'
ladies'
pants.
pants.
It shows off the the pork and beans a little better.
Goodbye.
So
Elegant.
Yeah.
This is one we're right in
Right
front of.
behind us. We'll see when we get to the other side.
It's a parklet. It's stupid. It's just stupid. Okay, Kim.
Let's go.
Let's go.
Those burners.
I love these crafts, Kim.
They're great.
Yeah. 733 South Broadway.
Ooh,
731.
31.
Which, no, 735 is the one that got the baby poo stucco. And then 731, I'm convinced, next door with the two little roundels and the
Yeah,
marble.
what hotel
I'm convinced
is that?
that's the Hotel Adelmo,
Yeah.
built in 1904,
Yeah.
and has just been refaced because it's of the same sort of size and shape. But I haven't got any proof of that. I'm gonna have to do some more digging. But yeah, but that's the building that had the wonderful gold leaf that they then did that on, and now
I
they've
like that they flipped this. They just flipped the acrylic sign
They
backwards.
flipped the acrylic. Yeah, I mean,
So that building with the new beige, with the new dark, with the new grayish plaster, that used to have gold leaf trim. It was like a giant picture frame, framed the building. It was gold leaf. It was gorgeous. And we saw the scaffolding go up, and we just thought, oh, fantastic. They're going to get a conservator from the Getty to come in and tell them how to clean it. And they'll only work on that part before lunch, right? They'll like do other things after lunch when they're cleaning that part. They'll only do it when they're fresh. And for 6, and you couldn't see anything. And it was like, I started to get a little worried because it's like, you can't see anything. I don't see the gold leaf anymore. And then they take the scaffolding off and it's gone.
and it looks like some bad SRO that they built in Skid Row in 1992.
And they didn't even fix the structural problems of the building.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they still got.
They just covered up. They just did. We've reported it. Building and Safety is looking into the violations, possible violations of what they applied for a permit to do, and what they did. And apparently there's some preservation oversight tied to that permit that they were given. So let's go into the arcade and take a look around. I don't know what they did. Okay, let's go in. Great. 34.
Really?
Yeah.
So that's such a less ornament.
Well, it's later. It's much later. All right. Just to orient, so Nathan,
Yeah.
we're going to go up to the car building, and you're going to talk about the car building.
I haven't got that much to say about it. But
Okay,
because
but
the cars are in the
okay,
wrong.
but gotta
But
go
you know
back
it's
up
gonna be
there
fine.
anyway.
We'll
Okay.
wrap up everything.
We'll wrap up there. Okay. So
Unless you want to go up to Faux Pettibone.
Fifth?
That's more. That's another tour.
It's another tour, Nathan. All right. So let's get us oriented. So, former Parker Brothers showroom, early 20th century. This is their first showroom. By the time they open in 26, the one on Flower Street, which is now, I guess they're called the Roosevelt Lofts now, I think.
Yeah.
They're called the. By the time they open that one on 26, they have 4 other stores. So they're from they're very successful. All right. Right behind me, this is the old Woolworths. This is Weeks and Day. Weeks and Day. Weeks and Day also designed the State Theater, which is the theater here in the corner. That's Lowe's. Lowe's is the State. The State was 26. 27. Thank you. 27. Just because I love Buster Keaton. Well, let's walk. Let's walk about half a block, and we'll say a couple things. Yes. I love Joe. Well, you should. God bless Joe Keaton. All honor. Okay, everyone, terrazzo, architectural feature, terrazzo, right? So, one of my concerns about bringing back Broadway's master streetscape plan, all of my when we see them building these parklets, I'm really worried about what they're going to do to the terrazzo because this is not protected. There's no municipal preservation ordinance protecting the terrazzo, and the city won't do it. So there's no way to protect this. So I have real Yes, he does, and Jose Huizar loves the terrazzo too. He loves every building on Broadway, which is why they're now investigating code violations for new construction, because Jose Huizar loves Broadway so much that no one on his staff could actually check in with the people doing that construction, because they love it so much. That's what I mean. I worry about everything. Okay. Great terrazzo. This is, no, this is not a theater. This is a fancy building.
They're always working.
Oh, I forget what
My job.
building is.
Work.
What year did you say is that the first Parker Brothers showroom opened for? They still get warehouse down because
Carol and Liz. Yeah. And that building was actually built in 14. Their original warehouse on that site burned in 1913. The lady in the back of you lived in Parker Brothers.
Why did you?
Oh, okay. Everyone, let's stop. Okay, she's a genius. Okay, I won't have dinner with this genius. Okay. Yorkshire Apartments, John Parkinson, 1904. This is the last, several important points about this building. This is the last SRO in downtown Los Angeles. You can walk in that door, and if they have a vacancy, you can give them cash. No 6-month lease.
What's the phrase? We want to move in here.
I don't know, but you just move in. If they have vacancy, they'll let you move in. It's the last real SRO. No 6-month lease. If they have space, they'll let you move in. All right, so this is John Parkinson. Around the corner, up 7th at Hill. So we can see, you can see on the blade sign, St. Vincent's and Big Lots. That's the Tahoma building, which is also John Parkinson, 1908. Interestingly, in 1907, Robert Brown Young was to get the commission to build the Bullocks building. Initial conversations to build the Bullocks building the Tahoma building, which John Parkinson got, were supposed to go to Robert Brown Young, but he lost the commission. Mr. Letts builds the first Bullock's building, and Bullock's begins their takeover of almost the entire block. They go up 7th and around Olive. And in 1930, even though they've just opened Bullock's Wilshire, and it's a huge success, Bullock's as a corporation has this manifest destiny to take over as much of all of Hill Street and Broadway as humanly possible. So they buy the Continental Hotel, which is their farthest point east on Hill Street. They buy it and they tear it down so John Parkinson can design a building as their final addition to this almost entire half city block of Bullock's, which they've cobbled together starting in 1908 and moving up 7th and down Olive. They tear down the Continental Hotel in 1930. The Continental Hotel is down the street from the RKO Theater, which was up until the mid-1930s the last vaudeville house in Los Angeles. Where the RKO, so if you walk through, there's Hamburgers. Hamburgers is the building with the flagpole at the corner, with the crenellations on the cornerstone. All right, if you walk through Hamburgers and stand at Hill Street, that was where the RKO was. Before it became a movie theater, it was the last vaudeville house, and it was open through the 30s. The Continental is this building that Bullock's bought on Hill Street, halfway between 7th and Pershing Square. They tore it down, so they kicked everyone out. The Continental was where all the vaudevillians lived. Everyone that was in vaudeville in Los Angeles lived at the Continental. Abbott and Costello met at the Continental, in the lobby of the Continental. Okay, when they were on, so, all these elderly vaudeville performers live at the Continental for a very small amount of money. They have nowhere to go. One of them is Buster Keaton's father, Joe. So Buster Keaton is very successful. Somehow they get the manager of the Continental hired on as the manager here. Okay, at the Yorkshire. So there's trust, right? So all these elderly vaudevillians that are like, I'm not leaving my room, they can kill me. They can just bring in the wrecking ball and I'll die in my room, I'm not moving. They get the same manager, so apparently there's a mass exodus with Joe Keaton as one of them. All the elderly vaudevillians move into the Yorkshire. So Joe Keaton dies here. Buster Keaton's father dies in the Yorkshire. About 6 years later. I know. All right, let's keep moving. Love the Yorkshire. It's a very sad. Oh, look, it's the Lancashire. Kentucky Fried Chicken.
The guy who lives in there just came out and listened to all that with that smile. How are you doing? Oh my God. It's pretty cool. It's neat to learn about your building. A lot of history.
I don't understand how, but I think the Pasta Man sells lottery tickets.
Oh, really?
Well, there's something going on there. I didn't know.
That's like Europe, yeah.
Yeah. But they look like California lottery tickets. Like he must have just bought them and now he's selling them as well.
No, it's just yeah, we should cross.
Yeah. You got to we'll pay more for the convenience.
Because they're cold.
Kim, how much do you know about the Huntington building?
Oh, the hotel?
No, the Huntington Building straight down that little wedge.
Oh, I don't know anything about the Huntington building. It's lovely, isn't it?
It's like the most neglected, unloved building in the whole city.
It's over by the Examiner.
Yeah.
No, we're so focused on the Examiner. I haven't looked at the Huntington. I'd like to know
I
more.
love that building, and it's just falling apart right now.
Oh my gosh.
Horrible
Breaking
thing.
in the back of it now and sleeping in
Oh my gosh.
It's not, they're going to set a fire.
I'm really worried about
So
it.
you can report it.
That's not okay. I know.
I mean, people need shelter, but that's not okay. Who owns the building?
Also, what's the deal with
Oh, I know they're trying to sell it.
It's been for sale for like 10 or 15 years.
Have you got a report though?
Well, we got one of our comments documented.
Wait, once you're done with that, I mean,
Yeah, I know.
because people will die.
It's a public art project. They hired a famous muralist from
At least it's not cold. They don't need to set fire.
Yeah, we want to buy it if we win the lottery.
Right. So now, just to preface this again, we're standing in front of the John Carr Building #1.
Correct.
The building with the ficus trees is John Carr Building #2, and these are both Robert Brown Young. And I will let you take it away from here.
That is absolutely correct. Well, first we had a question about.
Yeah, and repeat the question.
We had a couple of questions. One
Good.
was on the Barker Brothers building. There's a cornice, and then above it, it just looks very. Was it always that unadorned, or did it have some sort of?
Most of these buildings have had parapets removed. In 1949, they passed an ordinance called the Parapet Ordinance. The Bradbury Building is one of the more notable structures that had an incredible amount of ornamentation along the parapet removed. And a lot of the
Clark
buildings
Hotel had big urns,
they just had really elaborate masonry on the parapets, and the city said, "God, take them down."
Forrester Building had a whole bunch of.
Because they're worried of it falling in place?
That was exactly it.
Because
They just said, we're concerned these buildings are older, they're not being maintained, we're concerned that the masonry is going to fail and kill someone.
And what's interesting now is with all sorts of new materials that you can cast that are lighter and anchoring abilities, we can remake all that stuff. We can put it back.
Gordon knows someone that was involved in fixing all the external ornamentation on the Bradbury because he did the molds for my liners.
What?
Well, and you can do that with Invisalign. Yeah, you could do something like that. You could do a computer.
My point is that
It's
yes,
a small jump
there's
between
a lot. The
dentistry
technology
and
is very
architectural
good to go into these older buildings, take impressions of masonry and terracotta that's failing, get an impression, and then reproduce
You
it.
don't even have to do that. You could take a photograph and several photographs and make it three-dimensional and scan it, and you can make it with a 3D printer.
3D printers, yeah.
Yeah, you don't even need to touch them anymore.
Yeah, technology, you take a 3D photo and 3D printer, recreate it.
So, for example, if you were to say, I don't know, destroy all the Batchelder tile in the
Stop. Stop.
Never, allegedly. Acquitted. And then, and our other question was, okay, so if the Lancashire opens in '05 and the Alexandria is opened in '04, roughly contemporary, which one was more prestigious?
These are good questions.
I didn't hear the
I'm going to repeat the question. So the question is, the Lancashire is 1905. 1904. The Alexandria is Alexandria is 5th and Spring. I think what happens in these, I've already mentioned this, we talked about the Continental, where Buster Keaton's dad lived, being a vaudevillians hotel. It's a hotel for actors. Okay? The Hotel Nadeau, where the 4th Los Angeles Times building is, it's a hotel for actors. The Alexandria Hotel, Cecil B. DeMille pulls up in 1913 with his flatbed trucks, having unsuccessfully attempted to film The Squaw Man in Arizona. They come to Los Angeles. He and Lansky rent the barn. to film The Squaw Man, and Hollywood history is born. The Alexandria is an actor's hotel. The Lancashire, I don't think let actors stay there. So I think hotels in Los Angeles had a very clear line of which hotels actors could stay in and which hotels actors couldn't stay in. So the Alexandria let actors stay there because the Alexandria was where a lot of Hollywood business was done before they started building hotels like the Roosevelt in 27. Roosevelt 25. The Hollywood Roosevelt is
25 sounds right.
25, 26. You know, up before 1925, the film industry is downtown. So I think to answer the question, Lancashire, Alexandria let actors stay there.
And I think
So,
and then when they put in the Biltmore, then all bets are off.
the Biltmore, I think, pretty much won, hands down. When the Biltmore opened in 26, 23, Schultz and Weaver? Schultz and Weaver. Yeah, when the Biltmore opened up, killed the Alexandria. I think it killed all the hotels. The Biltmore really
Before then, if you were a Hebrew, you stayed at the Gladden, like the first and all. It's Hebrew establishments. For those people, the chosen. It was the chosen hotel.
All right, Nathan, tell us about these two buildings.
Right, well, here we are at car number 1, 1904, with its fabulous restoration happening now, which I'm sure will be done any day.
Any day now.
Any day now.
We're told August.
We're told August
Yeah, but I don't know.
of 2013.
Which decade, yeah.
Yeah, right, I don't know.
No. I'm willing to allow them as much as, I mean, you know, it's big.
As long as it opens.
That's right, as long as it opens.
In our lifetime.
Photographer who got it from the source.
I mean, I'm just trying to restore my house, which is 1/100th of the size, and I've been at it 15 years.
Wow.
So there you go.
And
You have maybe the staff.
and then so they are next door and they say, okay, we bought the place here, and I don't know what they were thinking when they put up these bays with the brick and the extruded metal. Maybe they were jealous of the modernization next door, but that was unfortunate. However, the car building, it's glazed terracotta, it's pressed brick. Once upon a time, its foyer had 20-foot ceilings, all hardwood floors, quarter sawn oak walls. They're little in evidence today, I'm afraid to say. But I don't have quite the storied history of the car descendants that Richard had for Barker Brothers, but I know that the car descendants held on to, for example, I believe they still own this building. They sold Clifton's, their building, 2006, as I think we discussed earlier. And where the Forrester building had a greater parapets and balustrade and things that were removed, it looks like the car, I believe, has kept all of theirs through the 49 parapet ordinance. So it's remarkably intact except for the entire bottom floor. Awful. But,
I think we did it.
what else can we tell you?
Turn around and see if there are any questions.
Are there questions?
Any answers?
I think we did it. Good job, Nathan. Thank you. Okay, I think we did it. That's our tour. Figaro's right there, so everyone knows where we are. Are there, all right, next month in June, are you going to be available to do this again?
Nothing would make me happy.
Okay, so next month for the walking tour, we will focus, we'll head north, and we'll focus on some Robert Brown Young buildings north of here. We'll focus on
The Faux Pettibone at 510.
Let's name the extant buildings we'll focus on. We'll focus on the
that's the
Faux
best.
Pettibone, which is 510 South Broadway, which is in really good shape.
Yeah.
And we'll also focus on the O.T. Johnson block and the O.T. Johnson building, which is at 4th. The O.T. Johnson block is basically a demolished building, and the O.T. Johnson building is next to it and is basically abandoned. And we'll have to show some photos, but they're very important and interesting, and we'll talk about that next month.
You can actually get an interesting view of it if you go behind, up into the Wells Fargo parking structure to the top. There's an elevator, and we'll look down.
Probably do that.
We'll look into the burned out shell through the roof. If
maybe it's still there in a month. I don't know. Although on the other hand, the burned out shell's been there for 10 years.
10 years, so it's not going
So, and maybe we'll go. Should we go up to Blackstone department store for 18?
Yeah.
All right. Oh, it's gonna be a fun day.
Yeah. So next month we'll focus on Robert Brown Young buildings around 3rd and 4th.
Yeah.
Okay. So thank you.